Hello there, aspiring tennos. It's been a hot minute, like 1, 2, 6 months, right? Yeah. Moving on quickly. There are only 16 or maybe 19 Warframes which I'll willingly categorize as supports. Those are Citrine, Hydrin, Jade, Limbo, Oberon, Trinity, Styanix, Dante, Wisp, Gara, Equinox, Frost, Harrow, Revenant, Loki, Nova, and maybe Octavia, Protea, and Gaia. Octavia does... Okay, some Texagon from the past, I'm gonna cut you off before you go on this insane 8-minute diatribe. TLDW, Protea and Octavia does offer their team positive effects with minor buffs and some energy, but that is more so the consequence of them doing their own thing, and the effect is too minor for me to categorize them as supports. Also, dispensary is subsumable. And look, I'm not gonna fight for this hill. If you think Octavia and or Protea are support Warframes, sure. But what are you talking about with Gaia? I seen this crazy idea floating around that Gaia is a support Warframe because she stuns and groups up enemies. And I hope this is a joke, because if it's not, it's total cope, alright? Gaia sucks ass. She's a DPS, and in a group setting, she just sucks. She doesn't provide anything. And in a solo setting, she's medicore at best, okay? Okay, great. When rating these support Warframes, I will exclusively judge them in a group setting, but I will take into consideration other aspects than just pure support. For example, I will allow Wisp's burst damage to count in her favor. And with that out of the way, let's do this. Number 5. Gara. I know some of you is already tweaking out. Gara's not a support. That's what I thought too, but in a very specific game mode, she most certainly is. Defense. With the click of a button, Gara can increase the effective health of the defense objective tenfold. She of course also has her wall for added protection, not to mention the augment everyone seems to forget about, Shattered Storm, which inflict all enemies in that massive area with Splinter Storm. With 250% ability strength, that means that all enemies in that area takes 3.5 times more damage from all sources. In a setting where Gara can consistently hit the entire map with Mass Vitrify, she effectively increases the DPS of herself and her team more than 3 times. Number 4. Nova. I wasn't even sure if Nova could be considered a support, as only her ultimate benefits her team. I guess, except for her portals as well, but do I even need to say it? Finally, after agonizing over this for a while, I decided that since the term Speedva is one which most high-level players will immediately recognize, I will allow Nova onto this list. Basically, Warframe is a looter-shooter. You want the biggest bang and the greatest amount of loot on the ground. There are lots of Warframes which can blow up the room or increase the drop chance, but there's only one Warframe who can speed up the enemies, leading to more respawns, leading to more loot. The only reason Nova is above Gara is how often you have to do this hyper-effective loot farm strategy if you want to farm all of these damn resources effectively. Man, this game is grindy. Number 3. Wisp. I doubt anyone is questioning why Wisp is on this list. I more so worry that I must justify why she's so low on the list. If we look exclusively at Wisp's support abilities, she offers increased health and some healing, which is useless on most Warframes and useless on all Warframes past base Steel Path. She also offers 30% fire rate at base and the ability to shock nearby enemies. And I'm not saying that these are useless, right? But with all the crazy shenanigans going on, like total immortality for the entire teams for 5 seconds, or increasing the damage of the entire team 3.5 times, or spreading 10 stacks of every status effect to the entire room in a second flat, or AFKing to level cap, and so on and so on. And right, in that case, some fire rate, a bit of of health and a few shock procs doesn't really mean a whole hell of a lot. What makes Wisp good, however, is the fact that she can leave these buffs permanently in up to 2 areas and then head off and start killing. And with her invisibility, she's very self-sustainable. So you get some support without really giving up on any DPS. And this is why I think Wisp is a great second choice for support in most cases, but I'd always want one of the Warframes above her on this list first. Number 2 is Dante. It doesn't take a genius to realize why this dude is broken. Not only does he have amazing synergy with status effect spammers, Tragedy Final Verse instantly dealing all of the damage over time at once in a burst and then multiplying it by 6 is super powerful. But that's not even the main thing. Triumph Final Verse is the most broken shit ever, probably. It immediately grants Overguard to himself and his allies, but that's not important. What is important is that for 1 minute afterwards, when someone kills an enemy, they start regenerating Overguard for about half a second. Keep in mind that when Overguard breaks, you become impervious to damage for 0.5 seconds as well, which means that your shield is guaranteed to start recharging in this grace period, which gives you another 0.3 seconds of immortality. So, in totality, when you kill anything, you get a 1.3 seconds of immortality and immunity to status effect for another full seconds. That means knockbacks, that means staggers, that means any kind of proc, total immunity, cannot be hindered, cannot take damage. This allows Dante to tank any ally entirely while they are in combat by doing jack all himself. That allows him to execute his own new combo, not to mention that he can spam Lightverse to indefinitely tank one of his allies while they revive another fallen Tenno. Dante is simply insane, sporting both one of the greatest support abilities, possibly the greatest support ability ever, and one of the better nuke abilities as well. And then we have some honorable mentions before we get to number 1. Frost basically does the same thing as Gara. He's only good in defense. I, among many others, are guilty of spreading the misnomer that Frost is the king of defense. Experience has molded my opinion, and I now realize the value Gara offers over Frost. I don't have anything to say about Harrow, which other WarTubers, oh, I hate that, run it back. I don't have anything to say which other Warframe creators haven't already said about Harrow. His design as a support Warframe is inherently flawed, since you have to be doing all of the killing to be effective really. And also, the invulnerability of his ultimate is either useless because you didn't need it to survive, or you were relying on it and now it's on a really long cooldown. Loki used to be a viable support before we had Tennos, and also his mass disarm is not half bad, but locking the enemies in place is just better for the most part. And also, we don't really need invisibility for reviving our teammates when we have invulnerability on demand. Equinox nearly made it onto the list. With her unique ability to put enemies to sleep for leveling, Shield on Kill, which works similar to Dante's invulnerability on demand, as well as her nuke ability. Unfortunately, she has no way of forcing invulnerability if things go south, and she cannot nuke and grant shield at the same time. So why pick her when you could bring Dante instead? No, the small amount of ability strength does not make up for it. Jade, our most recent Warframe, almost also made it onto the list. The thing is, in terms of the vulnerability on the enemies, she wants to use that for her own purposes, and while her buffs are quite nice, I don't feel like they are way better than Wisp, and her DPS just cannot keep up. Revenant is only considered a support because of Mesmer Shield. While this is obviously super broken, I think Dante and our number 1 spot does it better. finally, the #1 support Warframe is Styanix. And it's not even remotely close. Okay, you got me. This video is just an excuse to talk about Styanix and how fucking busted he is. I already thought he had the potential as a support, and I was experimenting with him on release. But I quickly realized that something was missing for him. And that something was Intrepid Stan. This augment is insane. He already had the ability to single-handedly fuel the entire team with energy and give them free shield gates on every kill, like Equinox. But now, he also become unkillable while in his ultimate. And guess what? He also makes the entire team invulnerable by giving them overguard. Assuming he's hitting something, of course. Styanix already wants to build for range, duration and ability strength, which makes Nourish perfect on him as it synergizes with Rally Point. So now we have Styanix floating around in the skybox, granting his team one of the strongest damage buffs, giving them infinite energy, refilling their shields and giving them overguard. And this is all while bleeding the enemies to death. Oh, did I forget to mention that Styanix is actually a decent DPS as well? This is fucking absurd.